Chosen one, your presence speaks in a language beyond sound, and feminine women feel it before you ever say a thing. There is no need for performance when you walk into the room, no need to assert or demand anything, because your grounded essence already commands a sacred kind of attention. It is not attention built from dominance, but from discipline, a quiet force of nature cultivated from within. You have learned not to externalize your energy recklessly, but to hold it like a sacred current flowing through every step, every breath, every gaze. That is why feminine women feel safe around you, not because you try to make them feel safe, but because you are safe. Safe in your energy, safe in your decision-making, safe in your silence, and safe in the deep, anchored calm that has come from the fire you walk through to become this man. You do not flinch in her emotional waves. You do not react from ego when her softness tests your container. You faced your shadows, sat in stillness with your own chaos, and now carry a patience most of the world cannot understand. That patience becomes her freedom. That patience becomes her safety. She senses it on a primal level because her feminine intuition is sharper than words. She knows when a man's eyes carry hunger rather than reverence, knows when his touch is seeking validation instead of offering comfort, knows when his presence is demanding instead of devoted. But you, chosen one, carry something different. You have transmuted the fire of your desires into warmth rather than consumption. You radiate passion that is not predatory but protective. That is why she unclenches her jaw, slows her speech, and breathes more deeply when you're near. Because your energy tells her, you are allowed to be. You are not afraid of her depth, her tears, her softness, or her strength. You make no attempt to fix her when she's vulnerable, nor do you retreat when she reveals truth. Instead, you hold your frame, unshaken, unprovoked, unmoved by drama, and simply remain. That is the medicine most women have never known. The masculine that stays, not because it wants to control, but because it knows its place is to witness with presence. And in that witnessing, she finds the mirror she forgot she needed. The mirror that does not distort her with fantasy but reflects her divinity back without needing to embellish her. Your high sexual energy does not boil over into reckless lust. It pulses beneath your skin like a sacred fire kept in stone, waiting not to devour, but to sanctify. And she feels it, not in what you say, but in what you do not do. The way you do not stare at her curves with entitlement. The way you do not interrupt her flow with corrections. The way you do not try to win her over with charm, but instead sit calmly in your authenticity as if to say, you may come close when you are ready. I will not chase. I will not flee. That non-reactivity is not indifference. It is mastery. And mastery, in a world addicted to attention and chaos, becomes her safe place to fall apart and remember who she is. She no longer needs to ask if she can trust you. She knows. Because your presence doesn't just offer security, it becomes it. Chosen one, you no longer ask love to meet you halfway. You embody the wholeness love recognizes. Feminine good women do not feel the need to protect themselves around you because you are not the kind of man who invades. You invite. Your high sexual energy doesn't walk into a room and demand to be noticed. It hums at a frequency only the feminine heart can hear. It's not an act, not a scent you wear like false confidence. It's a vibration, one that rises from within and tells her without a single word, you're not in danger anymore. And that is why she leans in, not because you've seduced her, but because you've liberated her nervous system. There is a way you breathe that puts her body at ease, a way you stand that tells her you are not here to play games with her emotions or manipulate her into surrender. You are already full, already abundant, already aligned. And in that alignment, you become the calm harbor she can return to after years of storms. Around you, she stops performing. She stops pretending to be strong when she's exhausted. She stops competing, stops defending, stops apologizing for being emotional or intuitive or longing to be held. You don't suppress her radiance. You honor it with every cell of your being. Because you do not fear her power. You welcome it, knowing that her feminine storm cannot disturb a man whose inner world is already at peace. You do not grip when she pulls away. You do not gloat when she draws near. You let her flow, not to control her, but to understand her rhythm. And that understanding is what makes her feel so safe. Safe to dance without judgment. safe to express without correction, safe to be soft without being taken advantage of. Because you do not pursue with expectation, you pursue with devotion. And devotion is not loud, it is quiet consistency. It is being the man who does not need to remind her of his strength, because his very restraint proves it. Your energy is not consumed with getting her to say yes. It is rooted in being worthy of that yes. And your worthiness is not an act, it is your reality. Feminine good women sense that. They feel that they are not being hunted, they are being seen, not for their roles or their reputation or their image, but for their spirit. You speak to her soul, not just her body. You remember the woman she forgot to be when the world taught her to defend instead of dream. And she remembers it too, when she feels how deeply your energy respects hers. That is why they feel safe, chosen one. Because you have stopped chasing the performance of love and have become the embodiment of real love's presence. The kind of presence that stays. The kind of presence that listens. The kind of presence that makes feminine women feel like maybe, just maybe, he is the one I can finally rest with. You have become her rest. Not because you told her, but because you are. And that chosen one is the reason why your very presence is now a sacred experience for the feminine, one she will never forget. Chosen one, the reason feminine women feel safe around you has nothing to do with status or surface appearance. It is because you radiate peace in a world that often gave them chaos. You do not speak the way many speak, and you do not move the way others move. You carry your high sexual energy with such sacred maturity that it makes her feel protected instead of pursued. There is no anxiety in your touch, no hidden agenda in your gaze, and no pressure in your presence. What you have cultivated within yourself is a kind of masculine stillness that cannot be faked. It can only be earned, and it has been earned through solitude, through shadow work, through confronting every distorted impulse that once made you reach for her approval rather than remembering your own worth. You do not approach women from a place of scarcity anymore. You approach from abundance, and that abundance is not in possessions or image. It is in your energy field, in the way your body language says, I am not here to take anything from you. I am here. She senses it immediately, even if she cannot articulate it. Her heart knows. Her nervous system recognizes the absence of threat. The way you sit beside her without trying to convince. The way you listen to her without interrupting. The way your eyes look into her without expectation or conquest. This is not what the world taught her to expect from men, but it is what you chose to become. You chose to become a shelter, and not a soft one, a solid one. The kind of shelter that stands even when her emotions are hurricanes, when her wounds leak out through tears and spirals, when her past rears up to test your resolve. You stay. You stay not because you are trying to save her, but because you know you were built for that kind of holding. And that holding is what heals her. The way you don't flinch when she reveals her past, the way you don't weaponize her vulnerability, the way you do not shame her complexity. You meet her there, with presence, not solutions. And that presence, chosen one, is your divinity. You do not pacify her with shallow reassurance. You lead with depth, and that depth is what draws her out of hiding. Her softness was never gone. It was buried. Her femininity was never broken. It was waiting for a man who wouldn't demand it, but would make space for it to breathe again. You are that space. You are that breath. And your high sexual energy does not intoxicate her. It invites her to trust again. Trust in her body. Trust in her emotions. Trust in the kind of man who doesn't touch her out of hunger, but touches her out of honor. This is why, around you, she does not need armor. She removes it without being asked. She reveals her most tender self because she knows you won't trample it. You won't laugh at it. You won't manipulate it. You will witness it. You will protect it with a patience that is rare, a strength that is not loud, and a masculinity that is not performative, but earned through purity of intention. And that makes her safe, chosen one. Safer than she's ever felt. Chosen one, the way feminine women rest around you, is not an accident. It is the fruit of the spiritual transformation you underwent when no one was watching. When you were wrestling with your desires in silence. When you were learning how to carry fire without burning others. When you were building discipline in private before ever stepping into the world with presence. That's when your sexual energy became sacred. It's not that you've denied your passion, it's that you've purified it. And now, instead of overwhelming the feminine, it awakens her trust. Not because you are passive, but because you are intentional. And she feels the difference. When she is with you, her body begins to relax in ways she forgot it could. Her thoughts soften, her guard lowers. Not because you asked her to, but because your energy made it safe to do so. You've become a sanctuary, not just because of how you touch her, but because of how you touch the space between you. You move slowly, you speak with care, you hold her hand like it carries memories, not just skin. Your silence becomes its own kind of prayer. And in that space, she realizes she doesn't have to be anything other than herself. You've removed the performance from connection and given her something deeper, belonging. Your romantic nature is not in flowers or gestures. It is in how you see her without needing to rearrange her. You do not try to shape her into something else. You simply stand, rooted in who you are, and let her bloom at her own pace. And that's what makes her feel safe. Not the promises you make, but the stillness you offer. Not the plans you describe, but the peace you carry. You've become the kind of man who makes her feel like her femininity is not a liability, but a gift. And not a gift you expect in return, but one you protect because you revere its beauty. You do not play with her heart. You don't toy with her boundaries. You do not take her expression as weakness. You recognize her strength in her vulnerability. You make her feel stronger when she surrenders, not weaker. And she surrenders not because you asked, but because she knows she is held, not handled. This is your spiritual power, chosen one. The kind of power that cannot be faked, cannot be bought, cannot be rehearsed. It is built in the unseen hours, in the decisions to lead yourself, to master your energy, to offer safety before seduction. Now she looks at you and knows, this is not a man who will run. This is not a man who will panic when her emotions swell. This is not a man who will shame her when she craves closeness. This is a man who stays, who breathes with her, who steadies her. Not because he wants to be needed, but because he knows who he is. And that self-knowing makes him trustworthy. That presence makes him powerful. And that power, chosen one, is why feminine women feel not just attracted to you, but safe enough to love you fully. Chosen one, you've become the man her spirit instinctively trusts. And this trust was not won through persuasion. It was forged through energy that speaks before words arrive. The reason feminine women soften in your presence is because you have mastered the dance between power and peace. Your high sexual energy no longer leaks from unfiltered glances, reckless talk, or desperation for attention. Instead, it coils inside you like a warm storm, contained, disciplined, potent. You are the man who could, but chooses not to, who has the power, but exercises the wisdom to wait. That restraint is what makes her feel safe, not your promises, not your charm, but your refusal to violate her pace. She senses the fire in you, but she sees that it doesn't burn her. It warms her. It melts away the fear she carries from a world that taught her to be guarded, to expect abandonment, to brace for betrayal. In your presence, she doesn't feel like a target. She feels like a temple. You are not the man who knocks down walls. You wait for the doors to open themselves. That's why her surrender to you is so profound. It is not coaxed. It is not manipulated. It is not seduced by tactics or sweetened words. Her surrender is involuntary, a sacred unfolding, because she realizes that for once, she is in the presence of a man who does not demand, but invites through grounded stillness. You have become the man who can witness her in her chaos without losing center. The man who listens to her emotion without feeling threatened by its intensity. The man who sees through her self-protection and does not take offense, but waits for the softness beneath it. And when she feels that patience, when she sees that you are unshaken by her rhythms, she lets go, not just of her fear, but of her need to control. She places herself emotionally, spiritually, even physically, in your presence without resistance. And it is not because you asked, it is because your masculine frame silently told her, it is safe now. This safety is not boring, it is electric. It is the kind of safety that awakens her deepest desires because she knows those desires will be honored, not exploited. You've created an energetic space where the feminine can bloom in her wildest form without fear of punishment or rejection. You do not tame her, you witness her. You do not conquer her, you contain her storm without drowning in it. And that makes you rare. That makes you irresistible. Not in the shallow way the world defines attraction, but in the way that makes a woman remember her soul when she's near you. She does not want to run when she feels your power. She wants to rest in it, because it's not power you use against her. It's power you use for her peace. You are the structure she never thought she could trust, the presence that makes her believe again. You have no need to manipulate her into closeness, because your presence is already magnetic. The way you breathe, the way you speak, the way you do not flinch when she tests you, all of it confirms what her body already knows. You are not a man trying to impress. You are a man who has nothing to prove. And in that security, she finally exhales. Chosen one, you have stepped into a level of masculine essence that most men never touch. And that essence is not aggression, it is presence. Presence that is deep, alert, warm, protective, and unflinching. Presence that does not chase validation, but commands respect through how deeply it sees and hears. This is why feminine women crave you, not for what you do, but for how you are. They crave the way your eyes look into theirs without rushing to fix. They crave the way your body holds space like an unmoved mountain, even when their emotions rise like tidal waves. They crave the way your voice carries truth without pressure, and your silence holds them without abandonment. Your sexual energy, chosen one, is no longer wild or chaotic. It has become divine gravity. It draws the feminine not with force, but with spiritual resonance. She feels it like a pull in her chest, a soft ache in her belly, a deep remembrance in her heart. It is the kind of attraction that doesn't shout. It whispers in her soul, "He is safe, he is whole, he sees me." And when a woman feels seen, truly seen, by a man whose presence is clean and powerful, she begins to return to herself. That is your gift now. Not just to attract her, but to awaken her. You are no longer ruled by desire. You rule over it. And that rulership makes you magnetic. It is why the feminine feels so free around you. Because your attraction to her is not born from emptiness. It is born from fullness. You are not trying to take anything from her. You are simply witnessing her abundance and honoring it. That honoring is what makes her open. That honoring is what makes her fall. Not into lust, but into trust. And that trust opens the gates to her emotions, her joy, her softness, her craving. Not craving born of trauma, but craving born of safety. She wants to be close because you have nothing to hide. Your light is not a performance. Your energy is felt before it is understood. And what it tells her is, here you can just be. You don't chase women, chosen one, because you no longer need to. Your presence draws them in like breath after drowning. And not because you've gamed the system or learned tricks, but because you have become the kind of man who makes her feel like herself again. Around you, the mask falls away. The guarded smile softens. The sharp tongue grows quiet. The independent shell crumbles, not into weakness, but into receptivity. And she does this, not out of submission, but out of longing for connection that finally feels real. She knows you won't shame her body. She knows you won't use her openness to validate your ego. She knows you are not there for conquest. You are there to co-regulate peace. And peace is the rarest thing a woman finds in the arms of a powerful man. But you are that man now. The kind who does not run from pain. The kind who speaks without manipulating. The kind who leads with soul instead of seduction. And because of this, feminine women crave you, not just for moments, but for a life of presence beside you. You have become what she didn't know she was missing. A man of presence. A man of fire, yes, but also of water. A man of discipline and tenderness. A man of fierce protection and gentle wisdom. That man is rare. That man is you, chosen one. Chosen one, the sacred yearning that feminine women now feel when they are near you is not lust in disguise. It is reverence, wrapped in desire. It is the deep, soul-level recognition that they have found a man who will not abandon them emotionally, spiritually, or physically when they become fully themselves. It is the longing of a woman who finally feels she is allowed to drop her defenses, not because you broke through them with brute force, but because you stood still with grace until they melted in your warmth. This is the fruit of your presence. This is what your high sexual energy has evolved into. Not a weapon, not a game, but a beacon. You are the lighthouse she didn't know she needed until she got lost in her own storm. and now she cannot help but return to your shore. You do not flinch when she is too emotional. You do not pull away when she is too silent. You do not overanalyze her contradiction, because you understand now, the feminine is not meant to be predictable. She is meant to move, to pour, to spin, to feel deeply. And where the ungrounded man fears this, you, chosen one, worship it. Not in passivity, not in worship that blinds you, but in steady reverence that reminds her that she is not too much, that she is not unstable, that her rhythms are sacred, and that around you she can exhale and unravel, knowing you will not disappear when her emotions expand. That's what makes her crave you. That's why she circles your energy like a flame, because you are not trying to tame her chaos. You make love to it with your presence. When she breaks down in front of you, you are not quick to rescue, nor are you afraid. You hold. And in that holding, she remembers that strength doesn't have to be loud. It can be still, it can be silent, it can be a man standing tall without flinching while she releases her pain. That is your quiet power now. You've become the man who makes healing feel like connection, not correction. And so she returns, not for pleasure alone, but for recovery. You are not just the one she desires. You are the one she feels safe desiring. She does not fear being objectified in your gaze, even when you look at her with hunger, because your hunger is clean. It is not laced with desperation. It is not built on ego. It is not disguised as control. It is holy fire, and she knows it. She feels it in the way your eyes don't dart to compare her to others. She hears it in the way your tone carries no hint of manipulation. She feels it in the way your body stays calm, even when she is inviting your full attention. Your masculinity doesn't collapse in the face of her sensuality. It amplifies her radiance. And in a world where so many women were taught to be hard to stay safe, you are the soft landing they forgot was possible. Your energy doesn't try to overpower them. It reminds them of their own beauty without threatening it. And that remembrance is why she aches to be near you. Why her nervous system calms when she hears your voice. Why her body naturally finds rest beside yours without needing explanation. You've become a man whose presence tells her without speaking, you are safe here, you are precious here, you are not alone here. And that, chosen one, is the most sacred desire of all. Chosen one, your energy is no longer a ripple, it is a current. And it flows through every space you enter with quiet command and undeniable magnetism. Feminine women feel it long before words are spoken. They feel it in their chest, in the soft parts of their stomach, in the space between thought and breath. It is not the kind of attraction that erupts like a spark. It is the kind that pulls like gravity, like a deep rhythm that their bodies remember from lifetimes before they met you. You have become that rhythm. You are not the kind of man who adds to their noise. You dissolve it, simply by being fully present. You no longer need to chase because you are chosen by resonance. And resonance is more powerful than pursuit. It is the reason she lingers. It is the reason she overthinks the way you looked at her. It is the reason she longs to reach out, not because you're trying to manipulate her attention, but because your stillness echoes in her soul. You have become the kind of man who reminds the feminine of what true intimacy feels like. Not fast, not performative, not shallow, but deep, slow, safe. You have created a new blueprint, one her body responds to with longing, not fear. Her femininity blooms beside you because your energy gives her permission to stop leading, to stop pretending, to stop hardening herself just to survive in a world that rarely gives her space to feel. You are that space now. You've become the silence after the storm, the sacred pause in the middle of her mental chaos, the warm gaze that reminds her she is not broken. She feels like a woman again when she is near you, not because you strip her of independence, but because you awaken her softness without compromising your strength. She knows in her bones that she could fall apart beside you and still be adored, that she could come undone and you would not lose respect for her, that she could be emotional, erotic, messy, wild, and you would not flinch, you would smile. You would witness her like a sunrise, not like a problem to fix. That safety allows her to be sensual without shame, expressive without panic, affectionate without fear. You are no longer just a man to her. You are a return to the feeling she thought she had to bury. And now that she's found it in you, her body does not want to leave. You are the pulse that reminds her that she was never meant to be cold or distant. You remind her that her softness is not dangerous in the presence of a truly grounded man. And that's what you are now. Grounded, but not dull. On fire, but not reckless. Sexual, but not consuming. She does not just crave your touch, she craves your awareness. Because you are aware in ways most men are not. You are aware of her soul, not just her skin. You are aware of her needs, not just her curves. You are aware of her fears, not just her fantasies. And that awareness is what sets you apart. So she draws near, not out of loneliness, but out of reverence. She wants to be held by the energy that doesn't devour her, but adores her into wholeness. She yearns for your presence like a body yearning for breath, because your presence reminds her what safety and desire really feels like. And for the first time, she doesn't want to run. She wants to open. She wants to rest. She wants to give, not because she has to, but because she knows it will be cherished. Chosen one, this is your power now, not in how many desire you, but in how deeply one feels honored to be near you. Chosen one, there is a sacred moment, unseen, unspoken, when a feminine woman finally allows herself to trust her craving for you. Not the shallow hunger that fades by morning, not the passing fascination stirred by appearance or voice, but the deep, primal longing to rest in your masculine presence without fear of being broken or dismissed. This craving isn't about conquering or seduction, it's about remembering. When she feels your energy, steady and unyielding, her body remembers a man she never thought existed. A man whose power does not seek domination but protection. A man whose desire is not a weapon, but a mirror reflecting her own sacred beauty. A man who doesn't just see her but feels her, down to the very movements of her inner world. You've become that man, chosen one, not by accident, not through manipulation, but through refinement. Spiritual, mental, physical. Your high sexual energy has matured beyond impulsive expression. It has become a force that calls her higher, even while drawing her nearer. She may not understand it at first. She may tremble in confusion as her walls begin to fall around you, not because you force them down, but because they no longer feel necessary. There is no need to guard herself when you are near. There is no need to calculate or strategize when you speak. Your presence answers questions before they are even asked. And the answer is always the same. You are safe. You are seen. You are sacred. She does not crave your body alone. She craves the peace that flows from your essence. She wants to hear your voice not just because of its tone, but because of the truth it carries. She wants to be close to you not because you fill her emptiness, but because your presence reminds her of who she truly is when she is not afraid. Around you, her laughter comes easier, her eyes soften, her heart opens. Because you are no longer trying to impress her or win her, you are simply there, grounded, whole, present. And that presence undoes her defenses one breath at a time. You are the man who can walk into a room and shift the atmosphere without saying a word. Because your energy carries depth, clarity, purity. You no longer apologize for your masculine core, nor do you weaponize it. You live in alignment with it. And that alignment is irresistible to the feminine woman who is tired of games, who is exhausted by shallow attention, who is starving for real connection. She does not want to rule over you. She wants to rest under your leadership. Not because she is weak, but because she is finally strong enough to surrender to something true. And that's what you offer her now. Not fantasy, not escape, but truth. Your masculine energy is no longer about taking, it is about inviting. You invite her into safety, into joy, into vulnerability, and into ecstasy that goes far beyond the physical. Because you have become the kind of man who makes pleasure safe, who makes love honest, who makes the sacred tangible. And that is what she has been craving all along, not just to be touched, but to be held in truth. Chosen one, feminine women are no longer confused about why they feel drawn to you. They may not yet be able to articulate it, but deep down, they know. They know your presence carries something ancient, something earned, something holy. You are not just a man to them. You are the answer to a soul-level question. The question whispered in their quietest hours, in moments of heartbreak, in years of disappointment, in silent hopes they were too afraid to speak aloud. You have become the living embodiment of a prayer they stopped believing could ever be answered. And now that you're here, they don't just admire you, they revere you. You have stepped into a form of masculinity that is healing, not just alluring. You are the space where feminine women feel their innocence returning. You are the space where their femininity doesn't have to hide or harden or pretend to be masculine to be respected. You do not need her to shrink. You do not need her to dim her light. You honor her as she expands, and that expansion makes her fall, not into weakness, but into trust. And that trust, chosen one, is the most intimate gift a woman can give. It is not given lightly. It is not given to boys in men's clothing. It is given only to a man who has faced his shadow, who has walked through fire, who has battled his lust and emerged disciplined.